Y'all please rise and face the flag.
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for this beautiful Lord's Day that you've blessed us with as we go forward. Just guide, guard, and direct us as we make decisions for our county and also the council here this morning. Bless each one another. In Jesus' name we pray.
Amen.
All right, we will begin the meeting with the approval of the minutes. We do have minutes from last month's meeting and then also the special meeting from last week. So with that, Michelle, do I need separate motions? Okay, with that, I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the minutes from, okay, Preston makes a motion, John Rundle seconds. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries. Okay, next on the agenda is Tammy Gibson with Washington County Economic Growth Partnership. Tammy, would you like to come forward? Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm here today with, we have a tax abatement for REMC. They are going to be providing fiber to the county and city government buildings. Our guest today is Brad Pritchett. He's from REMC and he's going to give a little information about the project. But what we are we're requesting a 10-year tax abatement for the fiber. This is what we've done in the past with REMC fiber abatements. We've done them for townships throughout the county, and that's why we're looking for the same on this. And part of the reason that we're doing this is the issues that we had during COVID with connectivity at the government buildings. Just the opportunity to have fiber through REMC would be a great constant for our communications with the county. I'll explain the, if you will have the tax abatement, underneath description of manufacturing equipment, just to give a little bit more information. Fiber optic cable and associated infrastructure and electronics for the purpose of providing a true high-speed internet connection to the Washington County Courthouse, Highway Department, Government Center, Health Department, Ambulance Building, and the fairgrounds. Also the added capacity to expand into other locations along the way. So I will hand it over to Brad Pritchett, and he can explain the project.
Sure. Yeah, we've got two different pieces of the project, kind of a north route and a south route to serve both the county and some of the city buildings. It's almost 4 miles, a little under 4 miles, and we're about probably 30% done with the project. Still working on getting the pipe in the ground, so we'll have to pull the fiber in at a later date and get a supply. So we're still a ways out. It's going to be next year, probably late spring before we get everything ready, perhaps. So we got a $400,000 investment in the portion to serve just the county buildings alone, and that's what we're asking for today.
And we've presented this to City Council and it's been approved. So we've got part of that, and I think with timing and everything, we've been waiting to get on the agenda and some conflicts in scheduling. So this is kind of the second step to that to make it a full. So if we could ask for approval on the abatement for 10 years for the REMC fiber, that would be wonderful. Then for the other ones, are you sure, are they 10 years or 5 years have we done for the REMC fiber projects?
I'm pretty sure it's 10 years.
Yeah, because we actually went through everything with City Council first, asked the same question. Okay. Because of the concern of the length of it. Yes. And with the stages and everything, and each stage had been a 10-year abatement. Council, any questions?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor for the approval of the tax abatement. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Preston. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Okay, motion carries. Thank you. And then I will continue to do compliances and everything and come before you for approval every year whenever we work throughout the project and give updates also. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda are the council appointments for next year, and there are two that will be taken care of today, and that is for the BZA and the Board of Tri-County Water. And for those two appointments, we do have some suggestions. We have a suggestion for BZA of Marcia Daly, and then a suggestion for Steve Burnett to continue in his service for Board and Tri-County Water, and the BZA again is Marcia Daly. Any discussion on those two appointments? Any other recommendations or nominations? Okay, with that, I'll entertain a motion for Marcia Daly as the BZA Board appointment and for Steve Burnett to continue serving in the Board and Tri-County Water Board.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, Preston makes the motion. Do I have a second? Second. Second from Karen. Any further discussion? Yes, Ben.
Has each one of these people been notified and agreed to do this?
We received a letter from Board and Tri-County Water about Steve Burnett that they would like him to continue serving, so he's currently on there now. And from Marcia Daly, have you had conversations with Marcia?
Well, I turned her name in because it was recommended to me. And if she's a public defender, I'll kind of explain. And
Okay.
she lives all down on Boyles Road, I believe, if I'm mistaken. And she was wanting to get more involved in Hill County, okay, outside just doing the work she does, because she works here as a public defender, and I think those are full-time positions now, if I'm mistaken. I think we took care of that here a couple, 3 months ago.
Yes.
So anyway, I haven't personally talked to her, but I was hoping any recommendation would be verified. But I think she kind of verified it by throwing her name out there, so
Okay.
I think so.
we'll go with it.
All right. All right, are you all comfortable taking a vote? Okay, all those in favor, raise your right hand. All right, motion carries. And Michelle or Ben, if you could give me her contact info, I can reach out to her.
I think you don't have the
Okay,
contact info.
thank you. All right. Okay, next on the agenda is the 2023 council schedule. This year we had a little bit change in the schedule where we met about every other month. We do have a new member joining the council and a returning member joining the council next year. We do have a proposed meeting schedule where we are meeting, and I'll run through these dates, January 2nd or 3rd, February 6th, March 6th, April 3rd, May 1st, June 5th, July 3rd, the budget hearings being August 15th through 18th, meeting October 2nd, November 6th, and December 4th. That would put us back to a schedule what we previously have had where we were meeting every month, except for the exception being after budgeting, we would not be meeting in September for Labor Day. So further discussion on this topic, what are everybody's thoughts about the meeting schedule, the proposed meeting schedule for next year?
I think we need to go back to every month.
I agree with both.
Okay. All right, with that, I'll entertain a motion for the proposed meeting schedule for 2023. Meeting, okay. Do I have a second? Okay, any further discussion? Bubba's a second. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Okay, motion carries. All right. Okay, next on the agenda is additional appropriations and transfers. You all should have that in your meeting packet. Okay, so we do have additionals with the town of Hardinsburg for $6,000 to cover the town expenses, and this includes the bookkeeping services, the utilities, and any other expenses that are incurred. Can I have a motion on the approval of the town of Hardinsburg for $6,000 to cover the town expenses? Okay, a motion from Rondell. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Bubba. All those in favor, raise your right hand.
All right, I'm going to have any discussion,
Okay.
because I got some discussion.
Okay, we will pause for discussion. Yes, Ben, please.
Well, that $6,000 will be put in a line item. Is Steve Anderson handling those bills? Because we should bring that out into for the public, that that's how it's going to be working. Their money was transferred we're putting some of that money back in, and he's gonna be taking care of the check writing. Am I right or wrong?
No, he is strictly doing the votes that handle the state council.
Okay. And who's writing the check?
We are.
Okay. I'm good now, I know what's going on.
Any further discussion? Okay, with that, again, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Okay, motion carries. All right, next is transfer for the ambulance fund, the funds. Michelle, can you remind me the amount?
It's an additional for the Paget fund to go to the ambulance fund. That makes sense.
Michelle, would you kind of talk about numbers and kind of explain where we're at with that one?
The ambulance fund currently is setting into the negative, so the commissioners have asked for an additional out of the old Paget fund to place into the ambulance fund to bring it out of the negative.
Yeah.
Do we have the amount, Michelle? The updated amount?
It's right now, it's $45,516.
Todd, what is the amount the commissioners are requesting that we move over?
125 through the rest of the year. Bad thing is we've got 4 holidays. These past month and a half, and that really eats into it. You know, do like to celebrate Thanksgiving and Christmas, so it's just part of it.
Okay, with that, I'll entertain a motion for the...
I actually have a question. So, I think we have some ambulance people out here, don't we?
Yes.
Are you guys partially running a third truck?
Chelsea, would you like to come up to the front, please? Thank you.
We are running our on-call truck when we have to. It's just the run volume has been very, it's fluctuated. The last couple of days, we've had like 2 and 3 runs.
My place, you know, here.
The last couple of days, we've had really low run volume. The time before that, though, the day before that, we were at 18 and 19 runs, so.
In a day?
Yes. So there is times that on-call has been coming in. The reason that our deposits have been low is because ambulance billing got behind on, they had people out with COVID, they had people that they were hiring, there was multiple reasons. So if you look at our deposits, what we have been averaging this last half of the year, we've been in the 60s for the month, which we had been in the 80s earlier in the year. When we pull the runs to see, we submit them to billing. So we go through and do a check to make sure we have all the signatures, all the papers and everything uploaded. If there is not, then we get those fixed before they get sent to billing. Mike he does a lot of that.
I'm aware they're behind on the billing because I had a family member who did not get their bill until late. So when we called ambulance billing, the number that was on there, and they told me that they were behind, so I was aware of that. I guess my main question was, I know last year when Nick was here and we did the budget for this year that we're in now, there was mention of a potential partial third truck to handle transfers for the hospital. And then I know when I sat with you and spoke to you about your budget for this year that we had talked about that. And I'm going to assume if you're having 18 runs in days that you're bringing in on-call, and that's part of the reason that you guys are over budget too.
We are.
Because we didn't actually put in for a partial third truck for this year's budget. So even though we knew there was potential that it could happen, it was said that as a council, we understood there was going to be that possibility that we could be picking up transfers before the end of the year, this year.
So we have been helping the hospital out some, but as far as the income, like what we had spent from what we started December with, we were 216,617 left in our budget.
Right.
So it's not like we are way over our budget, but we were not bringing in the amount that we expected because ambulance billing has been behind. There's been times that we've had like 300 and something runs just out there waiting for ambulance billing to send to insurance. And they still have like 45, 60 days depending on what it is. So when our runs have just been sitting out there not going to billing or not going to insurance to be billed, it's gonna make our deposits. We still have money out there that we're getting for this year. It's probably not gonna be seen until the January, February. And I've talked to them about that. But as far as like, let me see, we ended November with $90,347. The month before that, in October, we brought in 68, September 65. So we really started seeing things getting behind in July, August, September. So we have money, like where we are under budget, but our income hasn't came in that we have needed to sustain that. So that is why the additional is
So what's
needed.
your potential with what you got outstanding? What's the potential to be coming in?
I don't want to answer that without knowing 100%. I have talked to them. I know we had like 300 and something runs out. We were averaging like $400 a run. So, that's going to be, but I don't want to tell you like a set amount and speak out of term because I don't know that 100%.
I'm going to make an offensive comment. Somebody's handling the money. There's so many runs out there, and there's a factor that you can utilize based off your $400 run, that somebody can be looking at that and make a pretty good projection of what that income would be. I would think that would be an important something if I was coming to a meeting to talk about an additional appropriation, that outside of just saying, we've got a lot of runs that's been placed but not paid. I'd want some projection, because we're throwing in 125,000, I think. Well, I'd want to know that, wait a minute, we've got a potential for 125,000 out there. Does that make sense?
I can
Anybody
see-
says that to me?
I can see, like, whenever I pull the reports from ambulance billing, I can see if they have billed them, but I cannot see individually.
There should be a summary report when you place your orders, that the orders they've received, and they should know what and I understand about being sick, COVID, but you guys make runs every day, so you're not waiting on a report. You physically know what you got, okay? You know what you sent to them, okay? And at some point in time, you will know what they paid. Now, I know they're all lumped in with the ones for Medicare, Medicaid, and all that stuff, okay? But the others that goes to private insurance can be outstanding for 2 years. I mean, I know that, but I'm just thinking we ought to have a better grip on what we got. And since I'm leaving, I'll close with that statement. But somebody needs to be aware of where we're at.
Then I think those are some good points, and so my question would now go to the ambulance board members that are sitting around the table today. What comments do you have? What additional context can you add to what Ben has talked about, what Chelsea has said with your service on the ambulance board? We have at least 3 members of the ambulance board sitting with us.
Billing has been an issue, actually, and so I think that's part of it, like she explained, part of the reason for the difference in what we're bringing in versus what's going out. So I think part of that too is that because it falls here at the end of the year, we got some holidays involved, some holiday pay involved, then there's a little more going out as well. So to tag off of her comment there about what's outstanding, if you figure that, you know, there's 300 runs at an average of 400, that's 120,000. It's about what they're asking for. Now, whether that full 120 will come back to us or not, we don't know, because a lot of that depends on how those people pay their bills, whether they pay their bills, how many of them's Medicare, Medicaid, which doesn't pay as much. So that's kind of an unknown about what will be coming back in. But if you do the math there, that's about what I can figure up to if the average runs about 400 bucks.
To kind of go off of what Ben was saying, we have currently that they have billed like 204,000, if that's what's current. If you go over between 31 and 60 days, that's an additional 56,000. 61 to 90 days that have been outbilled, 14,000. 91 to 120, 19,963. Over 180, so it goes like it breaks it down as you build, and then these are what's past this amount, and then et cetera, et cetera. We have $417,000 that have been from current build to past 180 days. But I can't look and
Now,
see.
is it outstanding, those are unpaid?
Yes.
Okay.
I can't see specifically if I go to pull a report, patient A was billed because they were so far behind. Like if a run happened in June and said they didn't get paid till August, I don't know if they're saying that that is in current or that is in 3 months late. I have no way of seeing that.
But you know, you got $400,000 outstanding, right?
Yes.
Okay. And if you run your histories, which somebody used to do, you know that you're going to get X percent because you're going to have 20. So just what all you said, what you just said, you have all the information to throw a number out and be within 10, 15,000 either or way. Because you know, from histories, I think if I remember, that no pay is going to be about 20%, right?
That's what
We're all going to take 20% of that right off the top. Take 80, so we got 320, you know? And at 320, I think the factor used to be around 45%. So if I'm going to take 45% or 50% of the 320, I'm at 150. So we have the answer. We have the ability to give the answer to the question I asked. I don't think we was, but you just took care of it there in very, very short time in my mind. So you got about $120,000 to $150,000 potential to come back in to cover what we're sending out. That makes sense?
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I had everything on my phone, but I didn't know this was going to be like this, so. Okay.
Thank you.
All the other
That's
stuff.
the reason I'm leaving. I'm running out of the ability to do it.
All right, what other questions do we have for Chelsea? Okay, Ben, with that, Chelsea, you can go ahead and sit back down. Thank you, we appreciate it. Ben, with that information, you know, how do you feel after hearing what she says?
Well, obviously, we gotta do what we gotta do to make it work. So we're gonna have, whether we get reimbursed or not, we're gonna have to do it. So,
Any further discussion from the board? Okay. I can't recall if I went ahead and entertained the motion or not. Michelle, where are we at with this?
I don't think a motion is.
it was,
Okay.
I was waiting for the motion before I.
Sorry, I interrupted.
Okay,
Then I'll make a motion to approve the.
Okay, I have a motion on the floor to approve, second by Karen Wishmeyer. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion carries. Thank you all. Okay. Okay, Michelle, does that conclude the transfers and additional appropriations?
This transfers, the council needs to give the auditor's office permission to transfer money between any line items that will be necessary between now and the end of the year to keep them from going negative.
Yeah, something we need to do every year.
Okay, I have a motion on the floor from Rondell. Do I have a second? Second from Preston. Any further discussion? Okay, please raise your right hand. All those in favor? All right, motion carries. All right, that concludes the additional appropriations and transfers. Next, we will talk about the personnel policy amendment. There was a special meeting last week. A couple of the council members were unable to attend, so not everybody was present at that, but we have been able to talk to individuals who were at the meeting. But how I'd like to structure this with this personnel policy amendment is that we, Todd, if you don't mind, I'd like you to kind of give a summary of maybe where we're at, why we're looking at additional, changes to the personnel policy. And after you kind of give that, I would like to invite department heads to talk about how that looks for them.
At this time, the only thing we want to address and the only thing we intend on pushing forward with is the elimination of the payout at the end of the year on vacation. Once again, vacation time is to be used for your rest and refreshment, so on and so forth. It's not designed to be paid out. And vacation time, by the way, is already built into the salary as far as the budgets are concerned. And then when you have to go and pay out large sums of money at the end of the year, it does kind of put us in a little bit of a bind. I know very few counties or even in the private sector where they have a payout of vacation at the end of the year. So we would like to eliminate that, and it'd be based, of course, on an hourly basis. I can read to you what the rough draft of what we plan on adopting effective January 1. Let's see, let me start at the beginning here.
Hey, Todd, can I stop you for a minute so I can go ahead and get the feedback from the department heads, and then we can talk about a potential.
Okay. Yeah.
Have they all been made advised of what we're going to be discussing here today? I mean, are they knowledgeable about what? So why are you going to discuss with them if you haven't to give consideration to?
We've actually met with only 2 department heads to date.
I made a recommendation at the last meeting that rather than keep pushing forward here with something and get into this, what we don't know, what we do know, until every department head, in my mind, this is just my mind, is made aware and not get caught kind of flat-footed. Because we're going to start discussing something, and if they haven't been made aware of to this point, and you're going to try to bring it all, and hear lots of luck, But I thought I asked that take time out to see where we're really at with it by hitting each individual department head, and make them aware, of what we're doing. So when you have the discussion, you all know what we're discussing. And I think you were spoken with. And I think, was it Brent?
Yes, sure.
But you've got some other department heads out there, or see at least 2 sitting there now, but 3, 4 back there, 5, 6.
Yeah, and Ben, all the department heads were sent the agenda in advance of this meeting to know that this would at least be on the agenda. So
they got the information sent to them.
They received the agenda, and also, with that being said, I think there's still, what I would like to do is just have allow this floor to be open to talk to the department heads, because
I mean, I'm fine with it, go ahead.
Okay, that's what I would like. There may or may not be action today, that, I think that's more of discussing with everybody, but I want an opportunity for those department heads who perhaps haven't been talked to, or maybe there are special considerations for their departments based on different times of the year. I would like to better understand the issue before going into that's why I asked Todd to kind of stop on what it was that he has proposed, because I think the rest of the council would agree, we want to understand this issue, how it would affect somebody before making a decision on something like that. So that's my intent today, not necessarily say, do you agree with the proposed ordinance or not, but let's talk about how vacation payout affects your department, any sort of concerns that would be there. Secondly, let's talk about vacation and holiday pay, how it's structured now. If there was a change, how would that affect your department, and what are some special considerations we need to be thinking of when we're talking about redoing this?
You satisfied me 5 minutes ago.
Okay. All right, with that, I'll let you all choose who wants to come first, but if each department head would come forward and share a little bit more of how this looks in their own department, this is your opportunity to speak to the entire council and one of the commissioners about this issue before we would take any sort of action on amending a personnel policy handbook. So whoever would like to come forward first, go ahead.
I have copies of the proposal just because a council member who gave it to me last week. So are we discussing the vacation? Yeah. Are we, the vacation proposal or the holiday proposal?
Well, here's what I'll say, Stephanie. That's what the council has received as a proposed ordinance. That doesn't mean that's what we're going to move forward with. I want to know if there were changes, maybe what's mentioned there, or other changes. I want to know what's going to work best for your department.
Okay.
How it's going to affect you.
As far as the vacation, so for instance, in my department, and this is kind of a broken record, at its heyday, there was 9 employees total, and in addition to the clerk, so there was 10 employees back to previous administrations ago. So when I took office, I inherited 5 employees, and that is clerk employees and an election employee that I had to move over to the election side since I became clerk and was the election voter deputy. So I did ask for another employee because there have been employees that had been terminated, but the positions had never been filled. So I did ask for another employee for records, and then we man the election office by camera. So my election deputy is actually on the clerk side to help fill in, do counter work and whatnot. So, when it comes to vacation and payouts at the end of the year, sometimes I think it is assumed that that's like a Christmas bonus that they wait for, but I'm lucky to have dedicated employees in my office. So if they are required to do a use it or lose it approach to vacation time, then I'm going to have to ask for an additional employee to be that floater. Because each deputy in my office on the clerk side has a certain caseload, and then they also do counter work and then answer the phones. And then my election deputy, then I work with her one-on-one handling voter registration and elections. So for 2023's budget, I was going to ask for an additional either a part-time or full-time employee on my election side, because we cannot keep running ourselves in the ground when it comes to the beast of what elections are now. And then, of course, gearing for 2024, which is predicted to be even worse than it was in 2020. So I don't have, my deputies are cross-trained except for the election deputy who handles election stuff and then processes the mail for the Justice Center and the counter and then answers the phone. If it's a use it or lose it payout, I don't know of any type A dedicated employee that's going to be like, you know what, take all that vacation time I earned, take it, I'm going to stay here. So my deputies are required to do a use it or lose it approach. I'm going to have an additional human being to be a floater on that. Now holidays.
Stephanie, before you move on to holidays, Do you know, on average, how many hours your employees have that they are getting paid out at the end of the year?
I have 2 deputies that have been with the county, one since 2018 and one from 2017, and they're the ones who have had the payout. Because what happens, especially on election year, then when it becomes a general election, they might be taking their vacation time, but then once we start hitting the prep of early voting and all that, then they do not have the time to be taken off unless it's a medical emergency and use that vacation time, and then they accrue that during the election season. And then they would have, December would be the time that they would be forced to take that vacation.
So do you know, of those 2 deputies, do you know what their average hours have been that they?
I don't know the threshold. It was, I think 2 pay periods ago, one had like 180 something, so it was the 160 threshold, then they'd have that amount of payout. But the payout in my department, when I looked at it last year versus the county paying for an additional employee and benefits, then, you need to take the lesser of 2 evils in my, as a taxpayer, is what I would assume. Now, the holiday, the proposed, am I understanding it right? So my employees get 7 hours pay. So for instance, when my department this year, the county employees get 10 holidays, but my employees get actually 8 holidays that they could be off for their physical and mental being. So am I understanding that the proposed one right? So my employees get 7 hours, so if they work on election day, they're only going to get 7 hours. They're getting 7 hours holiday time, and then will they get the payment like they normally do of actual hours worked?
No, let me back up. I want to repeat myself what I said at the beginning. We are only wanting to address and are only considering moving forward with one aspect of all these proposals, and that is the forfeiting of payouts at the end of the year on vacation. We're not considering doing anything with holidays. We're not considering doing anything in the way of pays or pay for the number of hours, time and a half worked on a holiday. So the only thing we're talking about here is payout at the end of the year. And I think you've done a good job in your office, because I think you've only got one employee that was not able to take their vacation. Sounds like you're managing it all right. I don't see how this would affect you, where you would need to hire another person to manage vacation days at this point. Now, I may be wrong, but looks like to me it could be worked out. It's just a matter of managing your employees' time and allowing them to take vacation. And they can take it, they've got all year to do it.
So at this point, Todd, the commissioners are not considering addressing vacation and holiday schedules?
That's correct.
And that, if that were to be the case, that would be a new discussion?
That's correct.
Okay.
That's why I asked for clarification
Thank you.
before I sit down.
Does that help? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, anything else, Stephanie?
No, that will be it.
All right, I appreciate your time. Okay, any other department heads that would like to come up? Please do so now.
Britt's not here, he's at the Sheriff's Association conference, so I'll try to, he done a good job of bringing up Thursday that in our department, we try real hard not to end the year with anyone over vacation, and he had on paper, which I don't have, but I know that the only ones right now standing over vacation are the officers, some of the officers, and a couple of the supervisors. And it works a little different in a 24/7 facility where we are not like, if somebody is out in our facility, someone has to be in that chair, someone has to be in that car, someone has to be there covering. We just can't leave that spot open. So as supervisors and director, we tried hard to manage that. There is times that when you've already worked a 40-hour week, that you have to work on Saturday because somebody calls in on Saturday. So it's much harder to get those vacation days off and at the end of the year, but we do, we started in August with one of our employees that had 280 something hours. We started in August. And because of COVID and because of shorthanded, we had one position that was open in dispatch that we were covering for over a year and a half before we finally got a new hire in it. And we are fortunate to have 2 floaters, but unfortunately, this past year and a half, those 2 floaters have been full-time employees in a chair. So that leaves us, supervisors and director, to take care of that, which, that's our job. But at the end of the year, we're the ones that's trying to scurry around to try to get that. And it never fails. When you plan to take off a day, somebody will call in. So, it's just, and those are just, it's out of your hands. So it does work a little different in your facilities that are 24/7. And also, another thing that I wanted to bring up was, I know Todd addressed something about it being illegal, possibly, if state board accounts was to audit us. One, I believe we get audited every year on this, but I believe a few years ago, this was tried, and they did pull vacation time and stuff and didn't pay it out. And then in January or February, had to go back and pay it because in Indiana, I believe it is illegal to withhold. Once somebody has earned that at the end of the year, that vacation time, I believe it has to be
No,
paid.
it was the year that the county was suffering a budget deficit, and it was chosen, instead of paying everybody out that year, we would let them go ahead and carry over more than the 20 days.
Okay, I was just...
Nobody lost anything.
Okay. All right, I just knew that situation had to be, but I do have, I'm not for sure where this was at, but in Indiana, vacation pay is subject to the wage payment statute. This means that employees are entitled to be paid for any occurred but unused vacation time unless employers have a written policy to the county, to the contrary. So,
Which is what we're trying to fix.
right,
Because the
I
handbook,
understand that,
the
but I'm
handbook
just,
didn't specifically address this. The only thing it said about payout for vacation was only in the case of someone leaving or something of that nature, leaving employment. That's the only time it was ever really, it was a case where it was ever really designed to be paid out. It wasn't ever intended to be paid out the way it's been doing, the way we're doing it now.
Council, do you have any questions for Desi, the Sheriff's Department and 911?
I don't have any questions, I just have a statement.
Sure.
I agree with you. I myself am worried that when you approach this situation with a use it or lose it scenario, we're going to be losing on the back end when it comes to overtime, especially in your department, because we are already short-staffed in the police department and dispatch and et cetera. And that's my biggest worry, is that this is going to end up biting everybody in the foot. And I'd be lying if I sat up here today and said that I don't foresee that coming, because I absolutely 100% foresee that coming. Because I spoke with one of the judges on Friday. They called me and they have the same concerns in their department. We have to look at this from the approach of anybody could go out there tomorrow and end up in a car accident and not be at work for 6 months. And then your boss is stuck here holding a seat that needs to be filled. So now what are we going to do? We can't pay out the vacation time. This person's going to use their vacation time and work. That goes against what Todd's saying, in that it's meant for rest. But it also leaves this department with a bunch of overtime because they're short-staffed. And let's be honest, they can't fill the seat right away. By the time they would get it filled, I'm sure that person may be able to come back to work. Those are all issues that we have to work through, and I understand that that happens all the time. But I also understand too that when you're running a 24-hour service like that and you're already short-staffed and then you go and take something like that away, it runs into other issues. In my conversation with the judge, I also brought note to him that in one of these ordinances, maybe holiday, I guess he and I would both like clarification from the council or the commissioners or whoever, but it looks like we've had in our handbook for years that if a holiday falls on Friday or a Saturday, we take the Friday before off. If it falls on a Sunday, we take the Monday off. I know that this coming year, New Year's Day falls on a Sunday. We are going to be open on Monday. So my question is, and I know this is holiday, this is not vacation, but I do think that it's related to it and it needs to be addressed. Are we or are we not paying our employees for Monday, New Year's Day coming up for their holiday pay and working? Because if we are, we just shot ourselves in the foot and we cost our county money because we didn't honor our own handbook here. Because it's already going to happen here on Christmas Day, which is this year. So I want to know for my own personal benefit, and I'm sure everybody else is out there, are we paying these people holiday pay even though they're in the office that day, or are we just paying them? Because either way we look at it, we're still not following our own handbook here. Because if we're making them work on Monday, and it clearly states in our handbook that they're not working, they shouldn't be working Monday, then we're paying them to work.
If it's a holiday, they're not working.
Okay, with that, I'd like this discussion, so that for the best use of everybody's time with the department heads, I'd like to hear from each of them. Auditor's office, if you could, start thinking about the answer to that question. We'll come back to that, Karen. But for this discussion, I want to make sure we're talking about how this the payout or use it or lose it will or will not affect your department. So for questions that I have for you, Desi, and it might be harder for you to answer this with Brent not here. We did hire new officers. We added 3 new officers just a couple of years ago. How has that affected the ability of the department to kind of share the workload? So then, we're really, the intent behind that was to reduce burnout, but also in terms of making sure that people could take their vacation days so that they could have time with their family and to rest. So have the addition of the officers helped in that aspect?
Well, yes, in some aspects, but then no, because again, with turnover, and so you hire 3, but then you get 2 quit, and then you got to go through that process. And some people don't understand that the process to hire officers, dispatchers, it's not as lengthy for the jailers, but it's a minimum of 6 to 8 weeks to hire it, to put a dispatcher through training to fill that position. I just can't grab somebody off the street. If I'm fortunate enough to even find someone to come in to be interviewed, that's the scary thing right now. I mean, the scary thing right now is that, I mean, it scares me to death every day that people just don't want to physically be committed to a job. And these positions are a physical position that has to be filled. And I mean, not to have that is, when you're in the life-saving business, is very scary. But when you hire and then you get 2 more quit or 1 more quit, so I mean, really, we haven't been able to see the benefit of that because of the way things are right now. So yes, it's great to have 3 additional spots, but unfortunately, we've not been able to see that right now because of the way things are.
Okay, then my last question, and then any other council members that have questions, feel free to ask. My last question is, do you know how many of the employees through 911 and the sheriff's office are getting a payout, and what the average payout is of these individuals? Last Monday, before the Thursday meeting, as of the Thursday meeting, there were 2 supervisors, and one of them was only over a day, and then one of them was over 3 days. And, well, actually, that's myself. I'm over 24 hours, and Tammy's over 8 hours. Okay.
The intent is to get that off before the end of the year. I don't think there's a single one of us that are trying to get Christmas Club from this. I mean, we work hard to try to get it off. We work hard for our employees not to be over that vacation and stuff. I mean, that's our goal. But at the end of the year, then it's also us scrambling around too to try to get, our time off. But I don't think the officers, and then I think the officers were, maybe there was 9 officers over, and again, with the intent of, most of them trying to get it off before the end of the year. But, I mean, with our department, I mean, it's easy to say we're trying to do that, but we do, I think, try hard to keep that down. I don't know that our department is abusing that, so.
Any others, other than the supervisors and the officers?
Yeah.
All right, anything else?
I don't know.
Council, anything else? Okay, thanks, Jesse. Okay, any other department head would like to come forward, go ahead and do so.
Could I ask a question?
Sure, go ahead.
Do we have a formula or a number that would tell us, just, let's say the sheriff's department, of what a deputy cost us per year to insure benefit-wise?
Yeah, Joe, yeah, we probably do. Let's get that after the meeting, if you don't mind. Okay, Rick?
I'll start with the payout at my department. As of this year, I'm the only one who will be paid out. I've discussed with the commissioners after the last meeting, and I felt obligated to be there all the time, and the commissioners assured me that it is okay to use my vacation time, and as long as they're all right with that, I don't have an issue. My guys not having any time, or not having any payout, that's really not a pat on my back, that's more up to Mother Nature. Because if you figure the guys that's been there a while are maxed out to the maximum amount, and if they use their time down to where they should, you get to the last few weeks of December, and let's say the last 3 weeks of December we have heavy snowfall and they work hours and hours and hours. Not only are they acquiring that overage, they have no time to take that off. There's no possibility to take that off, so we'll have to build in some type of cushion there. And if you I don't know what you do, but if you acquired in the last month, there should be an exception, because if you're working many, many hours the last 3 weeks of December with no chance to take it off, it would be ridiculous to take it away come January 1. And also one problem I see kind of heading at you down the road, the same rule affects happy employees differently than it affects mad employees. And if this is received the wrong way, if the employees in one department were to conspire and save all their time until the last month of the year, they could really put you in a bind, so that may be something you consider. And that's all. And I was strongly against some the vacation issue, the holiday pay, whatever that was, that's all been addressed, so I have no issues with that.
Okay. Anything else?
That's it.
Council, any questions for Rick? Thank you for your time. Okay, who else would like to come forward? Welcome back, Chelsea.
So I think we have 3 employees getting paid out this year. Is that correct?
Oh, that's right, yes.
Yeah.
So, do you know about what their hours are that they're getting paid out?
They have that, I don't have that right in front of me. The biggest thing with us is that when we let people offer vacation time, we ask them to submit it within 10, before, like, they need to give us 10 days notice. And that if it's one level of care that can take off a shift, so a medic, like one medic can be off that shift, one EMT can be off that shift, and then we fill it with PRN positions. If it goes to the use it or lose it concept, we're going to have to be more lenient on letting more, like, obviously we're not gonna operate with no medics, but say we might only have one truck operating as a medic that day to be able to allow people to have the time off, which is then going to put one ALS truck, one BLS truck. Obviously, we have had times where we've done that and me and him have chased and we have jumped on the truck, but they're just with the amount of run volumes that day. You know, we might have both trucks very slammed, both trucks need medics and they need help. So it would just, I could see the biggest thing is it taking down a level of care on a truck, but I think for the most part, most of the employees are using their time. We are trying to be really good about letting them get their time off, and we've been jumping in. But I think there are going to be a few times that's going to make our level of care on the trucks go down to facilitate the coverage. That's all I've got.
What's your ratio of paramedics to EMT? And I think we probably still have that advanced still.
We're still paramedic heavy. We run about, we're supposed to have 2 per shift. We have like 2.3 paramedics per shift. We're a little bit paramedic heavy. May not be in the near future, but right now we're a little bit paramedic heavy. But it also helps whenever, say, Tony Floyd wants off, and there's that extra paramedic.
Oh, I understand.
We can cover that with basics.
But the EMT deal is still down.
Yeah, we have 2 extra paramedics right now, and we have, so we should have 6 paramedics, 6 EMTs. We have 8 paramedics. We have 1 advanced, and then we've got 3 EMTs.
I'd rather have that than the other way.
Yeah, it's nice to be paramedic heavy, but then on the other side of the coin, it's tough. Especially if we're filling the position, you can get them filled, but there's just not a lot of part-time paramedics out there that can work. We've got, 7 on our roster. It's hard to get a paramedic cover if we don't have.
That's what I said, it'll be
Yeah.
where you're at and where.
That answers that question. As far as me, I'm one of them that's maxed out on ours. I done it for a reason. Every once in a while about payout. I done it for, I'm getting older. And if I get hurt, I want to make sure I've got short-term disability, but I want to make sure I've got money out there to cover myself on down the road if I get hurt. I think you mentioned a car wreck while ago or something like that. If I get in a car wreck, I want to make sure I've got money still coming in if I can do that. That's the main reason I think about this. That my lifestyle's a little bit different than, say, Chelsea. You know, she's got a family. My family's done a raise, so I've been able the last 5 years really dedicate myself to EMS more so than I used to. I had kids growing up, had to take time off, spend time with them. So I intentionally make my hours up. Didn't even think twice about that. I never even thought about paying out until she said something about a month ago. You get a payout at the end of the year. Really? So I know that's what I do for him. Steve Young, he does the same thing. He's done this extra, and maybe we've got one other person. But I know me and him both think alike, we just bank our hours mainly for, you know, if we get hurt down the road, you know, we can still, that money's coming in. I don't think with the crews we have, I don't think banking hours for the younger generation, if they all got kids, is an issue. We can use them up, and we try to get them covered. Like she said, we work trucks quite a bit when we need to, so.
I think, I mean, on most of our staff, it does have, like, they have kids in sporting events, they have all of that, so they are taking off pretty regularly, so I don't really foresee a large amount of people banking hours.
Okay, but, well, and I appreciate you being candid about that, Mike. I think that's helpful also for us to
That
understand.
was the only reason I ever banked my hours, and I done it intentionally, and I
Yeah.
never even thought about it. I never knew we got paid. I always thought you got capped and you would stop. And then when she said something about a month ago, I was like, that'll be a nice end of the year treat. I got stuff to fix.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you being honest and talking about that with us. Any other questions for EMS? All right, thank you both.
Thank you.
Okay, any other departments? All right, this is your opportunity. Okay. Yes, Stephanie?
Maybe some departments weren't aware to come here and discuss it. That's why some of us didn't have our hours and stuff. I mean, we knew about the previous meeting from social media and was here, and then we did receive an email, like here's, that you wanted the agenda sent to us, department heads. But it didn't state anything on there that please come prepared to speak regarding this situation. So some department heads might not be aware that this was taking place, the depth it was today.
Okay. All right, any other questions about this, council? Any other comments from the board?
How many employees are we talking about paying out here at the end of the year? This ambulance has 3 and he's got 1, that's 4.
Well, just from those that have presented, I have,
About 26.
I have 16 just from those that talked, so there's other departments that are not those that have discussed that have payouts. And how many did you say?
26.
Okay, so about 10 more.
I agree with Rick.
When you said that you guys are accruing it and you get to the end of the year and you have snow and they're going to lose it, my question would be, why the hell would they even come into work?
I mean, the time of year we're at right now, if this starts snowing for the next 2 or 3 weeks, and you're maxed out right now exactly where you're supposed to be, you're gonna have a problem.
Right. And I said the other day in our meeting that under the Fair Labor Standards Act, you can't accrue vacation and then take it away from someone and not pay them for it. And I'm going to reiterate that again because this is a public meeting. You can't legally do that. So we're going to have to figure out a way to word your ordinance to where it doesn't say you're necessarily accruing it and then not paying it out. I know in speaking with one of the judges, they completely agreed with that statement. In fact, called me to say, yes, that's correct. So that needs to be noted, that we can't word this like we're going to accrue it and then not allow them the chance to be paid out for that. You are going to be violating some laws there.
We've got our best people working on this.
So I'm just forwarding a second time.
And by the way,
Do me a favor, on the Fair Labor Standards Act, which there's multiple facets and I'm no expert, that deals with wage and hour and those kind of things. But when you come to vacation time, can you send me the part that says what you're saying that wasn't negotiated?
Right.
Will you
Yeah, I
send
can
me
do that.
It was federally mandated to do that, because I don't believe it was. I bet that was left up to whatever was negotiated. And then some of your states did go ahead and do some things from their standpoint, which is a little different than Fair Labor. you can do more, but you can't do less. So if you'd send that to me, enlighten me, because I may have the wrong, and I may be wrong. So,
No, that's fine, I can do that.
and I don't know why I need that useful information. I'll never use it here. So if it don't happen, I will call you and badger you.
No, that's all right.
In terms of urgency, and I'll lean on the auditor's office, is this something that could be put into effect after the first of the year? Is this something that has to be in effect before January 1? Give us a sense of time sensitivity on this particular issue if we're going to address that.
If they do decide to eliminate payout, then we would like to give everyone enough notice as soon as we can so that they have time to get their time used. Shortly after the first year. That way everyone's aware, they know by the end of the year they have to have them set.
Okay. Okay, any other comments from the council? Okay, I really appreciate each of you all coming up and talking and being present today. Moving forward, I think it is important to note that this is something we're going to be considering, is eliminating the payout, and we really need input and feedback on you as how it's going to work best. Rick came up with some suggestions, if it's accrued towards the end of the year. So that's something that this is going to be an ongoing discussion. It doesn't seem like something we're going to take action on today, but certainly it sounds like we don't have to make action today, but moving forward towards the beginning of the year, I think out of respect for everybody and their time, knowing that this is something we are considering, I'd like you to stay active and engaged in this process to make sure that we're creating something that works best for everyone. Council, any other comments? Stephanie?
As a taxpayer, if the 26 employees are getting paid out, what's that total amount?
$40,669.51. It's quite a lot of money.
I guess I do have one comment. I didn't think about that number. Keep in mind, your 2023 budget is 1.5 million in a deficit. Okay? We're spending $1.5 million that we're not receiving in return. So, and that puts things in perspective also. For me, it does.
Well, and I think the bigger picture too, in terms of the council's commitment to providing salary increases, every year that I've been on the council, we've done a minimum of 3% for every employee, nearly every employee.
We've always found a way to...
We've found a way to make sure that we are trying to stay competitive. So it's been an intentional decision of the council to make sure that we are showing support and understanding the financial needs of our employees. So it's a bigger context. This isn't the only thing, but I think we've been demonstrating a commitment to the employees of the county, where other counties, even neighboring counties, will go years without giving any raises or do 1% raises, and we've done at least 3% from every year that I've been on the council.
Since I've been on the council, and along with other council people, our goal has been to try to get our salaries, our wages up in line where they're livable as we possibly can afford for the county. That's been our goal. Every one of us that I know of.
Yes, and that is a question of sustainability. It affects us. We not only have to live with that.
Could you say that again?
Sustainability. We have to live with that every year as we go into budget, and then when we consider additional salaries. And like Dennis said, we really have to be intentional with these funds and make sure that we're able to cut in ways that we can and that don't affect the efficient and effective use of government. But we also, we answer to the taxpayers, like Stephanie mentioned, we answer to the taxpayers. So it's a bigger context, I want you to be considering that as well. Okay, anything else, council? Okay, that'll conclude the conversation about the personnel policy amendment. Kyra, do you have anything? No. Michelle? Okay, John's not here. All right, any comments from the board? Okay, as been alluded to earlier, this is the last council meeting for 2 of the members on the board who have been longstanding council members, and we'd like to recognize them at this meeting and present them with a plaque. Mr. Bowling, we'll start with you.
What if I can't get it?
I'll come to you.
Okay, sounds good.
Can't remember which hand I grabbed.
Okay. Here, let me try to stand it. I'm
Okay.
feeling over. There we go.
Stand. All right. Thank you, Mr. Bowling, for your 12 years of service. You will be missed.
Well,
Maybe you shouldn't say anything then.
it's been an honor and a pleasure, and I really appreciate getting this, and I'm gonna call it a privilege, to serve the community. Not everybody gets that opportunity, but if you get the chance, try to make the best of it. Thank you. Thank you, Patty.
John?
I'd like to say thank you all. It was a privilege and an honor to serve one more time in my lifetime as a public servant. And it was a great deal to work with every one of you all, commissioners, as well as past council members and commissioners. And you'll all be in my thoughts and prayers for next year and the year after, and the years to come. Thank you all.
Thank you both for your service. I know it's been invaluable as somebody who came on and thought I knew a lot. There was certainly a lot to learn, and I appreciate both of you sharing your wisdom with me over the years. And I'm sure there are several of us that feel the same, and you will be missed. And we know that we can call on you at any time, though, so keep those phone lines open.
You know, I just got to come. I've seen the sigh of relief on everybody's.
All right, any comments from the board? All right, well, thank you all, and I hope you all have a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year's, and we'll see you at the beginning of the year. Before we do conclude, I just want to mention there are new elected officials that will be getting sworn in. I believe that's December 30th, is that right, Stephanie? At what time?
It's at 1 o'clock in circuit court, and then all others will be by appointment.
Okay.
If they cannot make that.
Okay, so December 30th at 1 o'clock in circuit court, if you'd like to attend the oath of office for the newly elected officials, that's what it will be. Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay, so moved. Got a motion from Preston, a second from Mr. Bowling. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. All right, thank you all.